Jules reclined on the Adirondack with a thick blanket settled over her as she looked out at the snow-covered landscape from the side porch of her grandparents' home. The bare limbs of the trees bowed under the pressure of snowflakes that fell on them, hardening to glassy icicles as they clung to the branches and trunks of the trees. The shrubs along the sides of the house that retained their leaves were not exempted from the icy flakes that lay heavily on them, pushing their limbs toward the earth. The brilliance of the evening sun penetrated the thick gray clouds that blanketed the sky, casting its orange glow across the horizon as it fell on the dark green waters of the harbor, creating a magnificent reflection of its splendor. Jules absently rubbed her slightly swollen belly under the blanket. The friction of skin against the material generated heat that seeped through her sweater, warming her flesh. The fire crackled in the gas pit, sending out its heat for her to remain comfortable in the position she was in. She continued to enjoy the scenery in front of her before her thoughts deviated, and she was forced to think about what led her to being in Oak Harbor. 5 months ago, she'd been overcome with happiness that life was going better than she could have ever expected. She was in her final year of college. She had a boyfriend whom she was looking forward to building a deeper connection with when he got back from his tour. And she'd also had a job lined up once her degree was completed. All of that came to a screeching halt the moment she found out she was pregnant. She had been facing a plethora of challenges ever since. She'd decided to sit out her final semester. She'd erased all ties with the father of her child because he turned out to be a lying cheat, and ultimately she'd had nothing but her thoughts to contend with over the past couple of months, while everyone else continued to move forward and make progress. It was as if life had carried on without her while she stood still, watching and praying for it all to just be a bad dream. What made it worse was that she didn't have anyone to talk to. She was surrounded by more family than she'd ever had around when growing up, and yet she felt completely alone. Her mother had tried to talk to her, tried to understand her, but each attempt had only resulted in her making matters worse. And it didn't help that every time she looked at Jules, all Jules could see was the disappointment swimming in her eyes. The one person she thought she could always count on being there for her became the most distant throughout her predicament. She thought she and Aaron would have had time to talk about what had happened, and that she could have helped her make the right decision. But Aaron left immediately after her cousin Rory's wedding. She was disappointed that her own sister could treat her this way. They had always been each other's confidants, and now it felt as if Jules knew nothing about what was going on in her sister's life, and Aaron didn't seem at all bothered that she didn't know what was going on in Jules's life.